The story of the New Forest Romani community is often told on its own, but in fact the compound system plays a massive role in the wider context of Romani communities in the UK at the time. The compound system was very much the first time that a modern authority takes a stand against what they perceive to be the Gypsy problem. My name is John Henry Phillips, I'm an archaeologist and I'm here at the Thorney Hill Compound in the New Forest. This was a traditional Romani stopping place right up until 1926, when it was decided by local authorities that the Romani communities of the New Forest could no longer freely travel and camp wherever they wanted. So they created the compound system, and Thorney Hill is one of those compounds. Romani culture was no longer seen as valid and it needed to be stamped out. And the way they did that was to force Romani communities in the New Forest into compounds. The reason we're doing this dig is because, believe it or not, there's never been an archaeological excavation of a historic Romani site in Britain before. This is the very first one, and that in itself is significant because it's saying that Romani history is worth studying, it's worth looking into archaeologically. And the purpose of this dig in particular is to tell the whole story of the Thorney Hill compounds. We want to meet the community, the descendants of the people that lived here, the people still around who lived here themselves. We want to look into the history of it, and we want to bring that all together by actually archaeologically excavating the compound itself to tell the whole rounded story. This is very much a chance for the community themselves to tell their own story rather than have someone tell it for them.
I'm Dr. Stuart, and I'm the lead archaeologist here at the Romani Community Archaeology project. There's a whole host of reasons why this site's really important to us, actually, as archaeologists, but also as human beings, right? So there's a, as we probably know, there's a huge story behind what's happened here. This area of land has been used for a long, long time. It was always a traditional Romani stopping place. It's one of the reasons that it was chosen as a suitable place for a compound, because the communities were used to stopping here. It makes sense to corral them into places where they're used to stopping, and the communities around them are used to them being there as well. The New Forest is utterly unique because of this compound programme. So in 1926, the Forestry Commission at that point started passing laws which meant that they could create these compounds. So the rules were that you're not allowed to stop anywhere in the forest for more than 2 days unless you're in one of these specific designated places. That then started collecting everyone in the one place, or in fact 7 places across the forest, of which Thorney Hill is one of them. Everyone came into these compounds and they started settling there, and then eventually they started building prefabricated houses, which is what we're probably going to find remains of today. And we have placed our trenches very much above those buildings to just try and uncover them and see what we can find, basically. The Romani communities tend to be kind of migratory, and there are stopping places, but from an archaeological point of view, there isn't always a lot left over. And so having the opportunity to examine a Romani site which is kind of in situ, that's really, really unusual. So now we can actually look at Romani archaeology in a place where we knew people were for a long time, which hasn't been done anywhere else in the country. But one of the most important things, I think, is that we're trying to do this dig with the community themselves. Digging in a site with the local community who are interested in their own history. That, for me, is why this is so important.
I'm Katie. I'm currently an archaeology student. My great-great-grandparents would have lived on the compound, possibly been born here, before obviously being moved into the housing that was built. I've got family that would have lived here that have been impacted by a lot of the rules and regulations that came out about stopping the Romanis from being nomadic, hoping that I get a bit more connection to that part of my heritage that we really don't know that much about anymore.
I'm Kai. My family used to live in and around the area, more specifically the compound, and before settling in the council houses just down the road there. One of my earliest memories is coming walking over here with my great-granddad to that spot just over there and seeing all mannerisms of travelling life. As I've got older, I've started to realise that, you know, they were bringing me over there because this is their sort of history. This is what they wanted to show me. I think as the dig progresses and we start to uncover more tangible examples of material culture and life from around this area, I think it will become easier for family to open up and talk about it a bit more, to talk about their experiences with living on the compound, to be able to bring that story back to life in a tangible, material way.
Hi, I'm Destiny. I'm 15 years old and I'm really interested in archaeology. I really want to learn more about Romany and its culture because my brother is Romani. Last time I came here, we did find a few things through the forest, but this time I really want to find something that could make it in the museum where it's quite famous and stuff.
My name's Rebecca Johnson. I'm a circus performer with Romani Heritage, and I've been performing sideshow stunts that originated in British fairgrounds for over 19 years. I have never ever seen an archaeological dig before, let alone taken part in a dig, so this is all very exciting for me. I had no idea how digs were run or what people did on them, so yeah, I've done some removing of turf.
What we've been doing is digging up the soil, lifting it out the way, and getting these little tools to brush it away so that nothing can be left behind, and get every little piece of little, wood and all the things that they would have used back then, all the materials, and that we have actually found some. We've put them in the fine bucket.
Success for this project: 1, everyone survived to the end of the week. This will be a success. 2, we'll have excavated our test pits properly, and people will have learnt how to do archaeology, and that would be a fantastic success, even if we've just inspired people to go and do it again. 3, we'll have learnt more about the Romani history of the area, and crucially we'll have raised awareness about it as well, and I think that is very, very important. It helps with community cohesion if everyone can kind of come together over this specific subject. And we'll also have raised awareness of the whole programme of compounds and all of that kind of thing, which is a very, it's a quiet, dark history that is worth shining a light on, I think.
I'm Holly, I'm an archaeology student at Cambridge, and I volunteered here this week to do some actual hands-on digging. We've had some finds already in this trench, which is trench 2. Just finished scraping back with the other volunteers, which is where you kind of clear the area so you can see any features that might come up. Like if you can see just here, there's been some burning here where the soil's slightly darker, where there's been charcoal, lots and lots of nails in this area, a piece of concrete here, and something that looks like a tile but it's actually got a rim, so we won't know what that is until we get down to the next layer. What we're hoping to find really is evidence of how the Romani people lived their lives here and how it was affected by them moving into this compound, which they were almost forcibly moved into, and traditions of their previous life survived within the practice of living in the compounds and what didn't. And we're hoping to find material culture and just what their day-to-day lives were like, really. We found in this trench already a couple of personal items, safety pins, a brooch which someone's walked off with. But if you can see there, it's just really lovely to see the little personal things coming off the top layer of our soil here. Then the next job that we will be doing is getting at it with a mattock, which is really sort of loosening up the soil and taking everything down to the next context layer. Where there's features, we will dig around them and excavate them. But for the most part, next we're looking for sort of positive features, which are the remnants of the building. We have to be careful that we're going through the soil heap properly to make sure that we've not missed any of these lovely little dainty things that you find. So yeah, that's really what we're hoping to do.
I'm feeling great, yeah, today has gone better than I'd hoped for. It's been amazing, really. We've managed to open 2 trenches so far. We've had members of the Thorney Hill community come down, people who live in the area still, people who have memories of the compound itself. a few at first, and then slowly more people started to come along and hear what we were up to, and we're really excited to hear that the dig was happening. We had people whose grandparents lived at the compound, and it's been really great to see that sort of younger generation take ownership of that story that's in their family and come down and literally dig up their own family history. That's such a rare thing in archaeology to get to do, and I'm really proud to be a part of a project that is doing that. Tomorrow we're going to open up 2 more trenches. We opened up 2 today, which have already been very fruitful. We've managed to find the concrete foundations of some of the prefab houses, and then tomorrow we're opening up 2 more trenches to see what else we can find there. We're trying to get a story that covers the whole of the compound in as few trenches as we can. So we're going to be pinpointing different parts to dig, and yeah, tomorrow's going to be great. It's got off to such a good start. We're a couple of days into the dig now. It's going amazingly, better than I could have imagined. The compound is over there, and I've come out here to the edge of the forest where we've been told the benders were originally, that predate the compound, where the Romani people would come and camp back when it was still a stopping place. And the fact that we've been told that is a really great sign, because the community themselves are now coming out to engage with the excavation, to take part in it. A lot of them are reluctant to come on camera and have their stories told. Traditionally, Romani families are very private, and there's great reason for that. They like to keep themselves to themselves, and that's absolutely understandable. But there are things happening off camera. There are interactions. There are people telling their stories. One man who was born in the Nissen huts, which were over there, came to me and gave me a list of people who had lived here during the compound. I have that list here, which is a great resource in terms of telling stories and telling the full picture of the compound itself. So it's going great, and we're going to keep going.
We've currently got 2 trenches going. They're 2 metres by 2 metres. At the moment we've gone down not that far. We're currently just scraping away the topsoil, and we've found at the moment what looks like a concrete block, which we're hoping to further uncover by scraping slowly backwards. So I found a bit of glass, which was not that big, probably from a bottle, we're not quite sure yet. And we've also had a lot of burnt wood, so probably we're on a fire, something that someone's been burning or cooking something.
Well, their experience of living here was very basic. So they were herded into these compounds, and that's where they stayed for quite a number of years. Well, the compounds, the various huts would have been spread all around the green that you see now. I think the huts they had here, there were about a dozen to 16 huts. They moved in about 1960, 61, and the last ones moved out in about 1974.
I find this project is really powerful because it's the first project in the world that is an archaeological dig of a Romani site. For someone who grew up in and around the New Forest, I feel like this is really important. For one, Gypsies are always written about romantically by people who came to visit the Gypsies or live alongside the Gypsies, and you get a very one-sided history of usually quite bourgeois people, in their eyes, slumming it with Gypsies living in the forest. For me, this is really important because it's the history of Romani people, of how they actually lived, of how hard the compounds were, how traumatic the compounds were as well, even though you don't sense that from the everyday objects. Knowing that there was only one tap for 400 people, you still find things like an eyeshadow palette or a record, or you find living people's objects and memories that, for me, it says the resilience of Romani people, the strength of Romani people, and how the community did band together and make the best of the little of what they had. And for me, that's very, very important and very poignant.
So much has changed since yesterday, so we're going to go and have a look at the trenches and see what's come up. So this is trench 1. This is the first trench that we opened up, and you can see in a day and a half really we've managed to find exactly what we were hoping to find. We put the trench here because we wanted to find the outline of one of the prefab buildings, and we've managed to do exactly that. You can see the outline, you can see the wall of one of the prefab houses. So it couldn't have really gone any better. We did hit a bit of a bump in the road when we started finding asbestos, but we were prepared for that. 2 of the things that we could have found at Thorney Hill, owing to the airfield nearby, was the unexploded ordnance. Luckily, we haven't found any of that yet, but we did find the asbestos. We've dealt with that, and now we're going to shut down the trench and move on to another one. But this one, trench 1, has been a great success. I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. So this is trench 2. Do you want to talk us through it?
Yeah, sure. So basically what we've got in here at the moment, we had a bunch of buildings over there, and we think we've got another building in here. Although it's not quite as clear as in the other trenches, but we do have these chunks of concrete here. And then you see this kind of slab here, possibly a floor or a piece of a wall that has fallen down. I suspect when they came in and took down the prefab buildings, they probably came in with a JCB or whatever and just smashed everything about a bit. So that would have started ripping up the foundations, and which is why we haven't quite got a nice clear foundation here. But we've cleaned it up today, we've taken photographs, and then we'll take some more off tomorrow and we'll see what else is under there.
Great, yeah, no, it's looking great.
Yeah, there's been some really nice bits of pottery and stuff out of there as well, which has been really cool. So yeah, no, looking forward to tomorrow.
Great stuff. Cheers, Stu.
Cheers.
Brilliant. So this is trench 3. This is the third trench that we opened up. We put it here because we wanted to confirm that this was the trackway that went right through the compound. And I mean, this is another example of the archaeology looking better than we could have hoped for. You can see the clear colour change in the soil. You can see where the trackway was and where the compound earth begins. There it is. You can see the actual line in the ground. So this is the trackway. You can see where it starts. So already, having just deturfed it, you can see such a clear soil change. So we're excited to get stuck into this trench. At the end of the second day, it's been a great success. Tomorrow we're going to come back and we're going to start troweling it properly. So let's see what turns up. So it's the last day of the dig. It's a really, really busy day. We've got to finish the trenches and close the trenches. So I thought it would be a great time to revisit one of the reasons that we decided to dig here in the first place. So a few years ago, when we started thinking about the idea of doing sort of Romani archaeology, we had a wander through the forests of the compound area, and we found this really, really nice piece here. And why this is important is nowadays, a lot of Romani families will recognise and will know that they traditionally collect sort of Crown Derby Amari pattern, which is made by Crown Derby in England. That's sort of targeted for the Romani market. And why this is so important is this is actually Amari ware, imported from Japan, and this piece dates from around 1890 to 1910. So this is the origins of the Amari pattern by Crown Derby, and we can see this was found in a place where Romani people lived. This belonged to a Romani person. Could be as long ago as the 1920s. So that's 100 years of tradition of Romani culture pulled out of the ground right there. You can see how closely they still follow the same pattern. So this is a perfect sort of representation of that link between the present and the past. That's Romani culture today. People will have these in their houses. People will buy these for their family. People watching this will probably recognise having these in their own home. And then this was in the compound and came from Japan. So it's a really, really beautiful item. And it led to this whole thing, really. This is the reason we decided to dig. This is when we knew it was going to be a good place to look. Yesterday we put a new trench in, cutting it down to the wire. We were going to put it where the brambles are originally that you can see behind me, but that was going to be quite a hard place to put a trench. So we got the permissions and we decided to move it. And we had the imagery from above, we had the maps of the compound. So we had a good idea where the huts were going to be, but then one of the community members came over who was actually born in the compound and said, I think the hut where my sister lived was over there. So we thought, what better opportunity to bring the present day Romani community of Thorney Hill into the excavation by basing the trench on where he remembered his family being. So that's what we did, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the hut of the sister of one of the people who's been taking part in the dig, which is such a unique thing for an archaeological excavation.
The archaeology has definitely helped us spark the conversations around what happened at the compound. Obviously, we know they didn't really want to be here. They were put here to stop them from roaming. And I think it's really interesting to figure out how we're starting to understand how it was set up, so where the buildings were, how the road was laid out. And I think it's really fascinating to just find all this stuff, to figure out, well, they were put here, but life wasn't that good, but they've made the most of it.
We're digging up stuff from the 1960s, and normally as an archaeologist you'd be like, oh, we'll just smash through this. But here, that's exactly what we're looking for. And to be honest, what we've got in this trench here is a sewer pipe, right? Not very interesting, except this sewer pipe was connected to one of the houses in the Gypsy Rehabilitation Centre, these prefabricated houses. And it comes along here, and then it pops up like this, which means that there was a toilet right here, and then this sewer pipe heads off down into the brambles over there. And one of the big questions we had at the start of the dig was, why is there a strange rectangle of brambles right in the middle of the compound here? We thought that might be where fires were or something like that, but now we know that's where the cesspit is. So all of the houses would have been arranged around this central area, and all of the sewers would have been running straight into the soakaway into the centre there. And something that's been very interesting actually with this sewer pipe is we know that there was quite a lot of disease in the compounds, mainly because there was only one water source that came in and there's 400 people living together. So what we can do actually is take a sample from inside the sewer pipe, have that analysed, and then we might be able to see evidence of disease or parasites and the things that people were living with.
Katie, Destiny, we found some amazing stuff over the course of the excavation. Much more than we could possibly put in front of us, I think. There's been so much stuff coming out of the trenches, but we've got a few of the highlights here, I think. And what I love about them is they really show life throughout the compound, you know, showing how life was for the people that lived here. Have you got any favourites at all?
I'm quite partial to that little record, and I know you are as well.
Yes, the little record. I do love the little record. I think, well, it literally gives a soundtrack to the compounds, right? Which is something we never ever could have imagined would be the case. As you know, one of the volunteers found this and using the matrix number on the vinyl record managed to find out exactly what it was, right? And it's as you know, it's a Cream record from 1968. Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker, he found out that it was side D of the record. It's an amazing thing because I think when we talk about what happened in the compounds and the rehabilitation centre, as they called it, from a sort of social and a political level, we talk about it, but life was still life that people had to get on with, right? To them, it was just everyday life, and they were listening to music, and we know now what some of the sounds of that were. So it's such an amazing thing. 1968, it dates right to the compound era. So yeah, I'm partial to that as well. That's a really great find. Shame we didn't find the rest of it. We could listen to it now.
Yeah.
But what about you, Destiny? Is there any favourites of yours?
I like the little shoe because it's quite a lot of it still here, and like I thought it would disintegrate, but it's actually really cute. I'm surprised like it's still like got the colour as well. I think that's really cute. That.
Yeah, I love the shoe. It survived so well, like you say.
Yeah.
And that would have been, you know, a little girl's shoe. Maybe she was playing out in the woods. Maybe she was playing around in the compound. Maybe she lost it. I think that ties really nicely into this little thing, which I know you were here when we found. It's a tiny little teacup saucer from a child's tea set.
A little cup.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it? It's such a nice little personal item. And for that to survive all that time and not be broken is absolutely amazing. I love that. I think, dare I say, that might be maybe my favourite find, I think, maybe. I'm not sure. I really like, well, I love this. I love the knife sharpening stone.
Okay.
Because when you think of Romani people living here, living on the road, living anywhere, it's such a traditional Romani thing to be going town to town, village to village, sharpening knives to earn money. And when we started the dig, I never could have imagined that we were going to find something like this. It's such a typical traditional Romani job. It's part of the nomadic economy, and to find that still here is absolutely amazing. I know some of the people who have memories of the compound, who lived in the compound, even told us some people who it might have belonged to, the people who were doing the knife sharpening. So that's such a tangible link between the past and the present, which is so amazing.
Do you think it's being cut like that or just broke?
That's a good question. I think it may have been broken, and maybe that was why it was abandoned.
Maybe.
You know, I think though, it's still pretty coarse. You could probably still sharpen a knife with it now. I mean, if we didn't have to hand it in, I'd probably take it home and use it to sharpen my knives. But it's a great item. And some of the other stuff, I mean, you know, one of the people who lived here came and saw this, which is, we thought it might be from a trader or a caravan window, and of course they weren't here, so that was a question. There weren't traders here. But then one of the people who had memories of the compound said, oh no, this is one of the latches from the prefab houses. This is from the actual window of the prefabs, which archaeologically is amazing because we were looking for the prefab buildings, right? So we found the foundations of them, and we found some of the structure of them, the windows, literally. And the person who remembered using this, you could see them going through like the thought process and remembering that motion, because you remember things from your childhood of like doors, the sound of a certain door shutting, or what your doorbell in your home was when you were a kid, or even like remembering your telephone number from when you were a child, right? And they went through the process as we found it, remembering that feeling, that motion of closing the window, which I think is so nice, such a personable touch. And I really love these items. These tell such a good story of horses, and Romani people and horses go together perfectly, right? It's such a staple of the culture, it's such a staple of the way of life. Breaking horses, trading horses, horse fairs, the whole works. And these tell that story. On the one hand, you've got Sloane's liniment, a bottle of that was horse medicine. That's what would have been used to heal horses. And on the other hand, you've got a farrier's tool, which was found on the excavation, and someone here used this to clip the hooves of their horses, and that's such an amazing thing. We're the first people to touch it since they dropped it, right? So I think that's really beautiful. And these are all great finds that really I couldn't have imagined we were going to find when we started this excavation, because the notion of a sort of compound, and they were put here in the hopes that it would kind of kill off that Romani culture, right? And it shows clear as day here that they didn't manage to do that. They were still having the horses. They were looking after their toys. They were listening to music. They were sharpening knives. They were still doing what they could to make the place a home, which is amazing, I think. So I think we've done well, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Great.
It's been quite emotional. I wasn't expecting to have come so far with this. I wasn't expecting to have found so much. It's quite poignant to see history mapped out in front of me, flat packed in front of me, like a bird's eye view, and being able to actually view it and take the personal experiences that I know from my own family and contextualise them with this wider environment, with this wider setting. In terms of the archaeology, it's been an incredibly successful week. Not only have we discovered the foundations of two of the buildings now in terms of the actual structural building, and then the foundations for the toilets and various things like that, we've also discovered the pathway. And so we know the sort of way that the track went. And so in terms of actually mapping the sites and the buildings that were here, it's been an incredibly successful week.
It's living history, but having the artefacts behind that really bring it to life, bring it to the forefront, especially for me as like a younger generation that I knew about it, but I didn't know about it, if you get what I mean. Like, doing this, being here, has really opened my eyes to like, oh, okay, I understand a bit more about what's going on here. Volunteering has been, especially here, has been one of the best things I've done.
So it's the end of the week, it's the end of the dig. It's absolutely flown by so fast, but it's been absolutely amazing, better than I could have hoped for. We've found amazing archaeology, we've found the foundations of the prefab houses, the foundations of the camp. We found beautiful personal items that belong to the people that lived here that really showed what it was like. It showed the day-to-day life of the people who lived in the compound itself. Not only that, we've had people who were born at the compound, people whose grandparents were born at the compound coming here, not just to dig, but also to share their stories, to tell us what they remember. Generations of different families. At one point we had 3 generations from the same family coming down here to bond over the fact that the dig had happened. So it's been absolutely amazing. It's been a beautiful thing. It's been an emotional week, but I'm so glad we did it, and I think this is the start of something much bigger. I think this is the catalyst for conversations to be had. I think it's the catalyst for Romani archaeology to become a bigger thing than just this one dig. So I couldn't have asked for more. I'm so thrilled with how it's gone.
I think we've aced it, actually, to be honest with you. I really do think we've achieved pretty much everything that we to achieve, and I have to say at this point, thank you very much to the National Lottery Heritage Fund and all the people who play the lottery, because none of this would have happened without them. So yeah, all of the aims that we put in our application, we've achieved them all so far. Now, following this, we've got an exhibition going on, which will be curated by some members of the community as well in the local heritage centre. So we'll take all of this, we'll write it up, and then we'll put it in the museum. So it's absolutely brilliant.
What I love about the exhibition is the aesthetic that they've created and how they presented the research, because the research was extensive as well. And I think the combination is really impactful.
Having been doing the dig, having been involved with the process originally, it's so amazing to be here and actually see like the final product in the museum. It's so inspirational, I think, and it's such an important story that we have to tell.
A very welcome addition to a much needed historiography of a topic that, quite frankly, is far too underrepresented in this country.
It was amazing. I'm looking at all the stuff it's bringing back, all the memories from when we last did the dig. It's really interesting, reading all the stuff on the boards. It's really exciting to know that it's been brought back and I can come here and look at it again.
One of the things that we really hoped with this project was that we could use archaeology in a sort of human rights way and to highlight the story of Thorney Hill and the compound system and the Gypsy Rehabilitation Centre. Also contextualise the modern day and how that sits within the 500 years of history. And one of the big things we wanted to do was to not just tell the story, but to get people talking about it, because these things did happen. The Gypsy Rehabilitation Centre did happen, the compound system did happen, the laws are still being rolled out to this day, and we want people to start having those conversations. It's not about throwing blame around, it's not about animosity, it's not about anger, it's about just being honest about what's happened over the last 500 years and how it affects people to this day. And hopefully this exhibit and this story that we've told will do that.